Good evening to everyone and happy Sabbath. Thank you for the wonderful music and thank you again to Riverview Adventist Church and family for inviting me to have the whole series completed here. Um, so I think this would be the last no nga run sang program nga ni diri sa Iloilo. Uh, I've shared it also with the people at Kalibo SDA Church last week, and they have a very positive nga response. I would like to praise God. It's a wonderful no nga weekend dito sa Kalibo. Their challenge ng ilang nga elders dito after the series was to make tanan nila nga potluck vegan or vegetarian for the first time. Really, the prayer for 1 week prepared the people at Kalibo SDA nga church. So I would like to ask everyone here no to pray for them as they continue sang ilang progression sa aton niya health message. And tonight, my message to you is the part 2 of the series, pero syempre gin-revise ko no for everyone this evening. Okay, so our message, samtang wala padra no, is our health is a condition of having sound mind, body, and soul. So hindi siya pwede nga isa lang. And in 3 John verse 2, it says that He came so that we may have an abundant life, so that we may prosper in health. And if we know, ang ato na church nag-start siya sang 1844, pero ang first nga organized did nga Seventh-day Adventist Church, natabo siya sang year nga 1863. Then after a week sina, dira nag-abot ang General Conference after a week nga may established formally ang ato nga church. Now, for some of us, no, when do you think nag-abot ang aton nga health message? Ano nga year? Kung sino makarecall? Was it before 1863? After 1863? Okay, sige. Actually, it happened just a month after actually 3 weeks, 2 weeks after ma-organize ang Seventh-day Adventist Church. In June 6, 1863, it was a Friday, the first major dako nga revelation to Ellen White was given about our health message. Pero that was not the first message. Years before 1863, actually ginhatagan na si Ellen White sang gamay nga vision about our health. And the first was about tobacco, about smoking. It was already given to Ellen White earlier. Sige. If I can recall, it was 1848 ang exact nga date sa to. And the second vision was given in a Christmas. 2 years later, the second vision about our health. And so we asked, why is it that we were given this health message? Why was it given sang 1863? Okay. It was given because we know that our physical health has a bearing sa aton nga spiritual nga health. You cannot separate the two of them. You can imagine no, those who are sickly ng mga tao, we cannot expect them to fully comprehend spiritual things. Kasi imo nga mind is more dito sa imo nga physical na nga problem when you have a health problem. That's why it was given to us also for our spiritual nga needs. God also intends nga ang aton nga lawas will be a temple for the Holy Spirit. In 1 Corinthians 6:19, it says, "Know ye not that your body is the temple of the Holy Ghost, which is in you, and ye are not your own." Now, sino sa inyo diri may sa aton siguro diri no nga naga-rent sang house, we do not own our house. Our body is like that. God is the owner. Kag kita nagahulam lang. Now the owner has the right kung ano obrahon niya sa iya nga property. Ti ang nagarenta may ara bala sang right sang ginahulam niya. No, as the tenant, man has no rights, no, kung ano obrahon niya sa nga property. I have a classmate sa medicine. They have their old house, ginpa-rent na nila, then they transfer to a new house. And one time, gusto nila magbalik sa ilang old house just to siguro reminisce, no? May maduduman sila nga memories pagbalik na sila nga house. So they went back and visited their house, and then hambal nila, do diri man gatindog ang aton nga balay nga ginparentahan nga ado hindi ta makita how. No sure gid sila nga dito ang address ang ilang nga balay. Pagkaabot nila diin na ang balay. Miyara dito sa megatindog nga balay pero balaan nila hindi amo to ang ilang nga balay. Pero kadtuan nila, nanoktok sila. Kag pag nag-abris ang door, amo tong garenta sa ila. Hambal nila, ay sir, ano natabo sa balay? Nga naglain. Kaya ginpaguba nila ang balay, kag napaobra sila sang bago. No? So muna nga hindi nila makilala ang balay. So tsakto na bala no nga wala sila naglisensya sa tag-iya sang balay. Kung anong ilaobrahon? No, it's not. Just with us, no? God is the owner of our health, our bodies. We do not have the right, no, nga pag gusto lang kita kung ano ang obrahon ta sa aton nga lawas. That's why we are given the health message. Okay. So, first, we are familiar no sa aton nga health nga message. Kalabanan sa aton okay sa nutrition, sa exercise, sa air, Bible prayer, divine guidance. Pero may isa da ka topic nga kisa akong amuna na gani matouch about sa health nga message. Medyo may gamay nga bias about sina. No, kagang topic nga actually usually ang nutrition. Kasi iban do okay lang ta pero pagabot dira medyo iban lain-lain ang ilang views, lain-lain ilang stand about sa among topic. So God is trying through the health message, God is trying to lead us back step by step, no, towards the Eden that we have, the perfect paradise nga ginhatag kay Adam kag kay Eve. Through the health message, God is trying to teach all of us, no? Now we have to go back to His design sang una because He knows He designed it to be the best for us and He knows that in this end time, amuna siya maghahatag sa aton sang best nga health. So, unfortunately or fortunately for some, ang hambal ni Ellen White, among those who are waiting for the coming of the Lord, meat eating will be done away. No, isa mga strongest nga pinhambal ni Ellen White. Meat eating will be done away in the health message and even before the end of time. So, ang question usually sa mga even sa Adventist, no? Kung meat eating will be done away, what happens to our protein? No? Do we really need meat for the protein that it provides us? So actually, it's been a myth for a long time already. Sa una, sa na-discover nila ang protein, the scientists and the health professionals thought that we need a lot of those protein. Of course, ang start nila, they can be forgiven for that. Crude pa ang science. And then we discovered nga may protein manggali sa vegetables. But they They said, basta taas gid ang protein sang meat until just a few decades or just this decade, we find problems with the level of protein that we usually get from our animals. And then it turns out nga okay gali ang levels ng protein sa vegetables. So at this moment, I would really like to have to wait no sa ako niya presentation because siguro mas nami gid nga may visual ka mo kung anong ginahambal ko. Okay. There was a scientist named Campbell. If you know Campbell, no, he started sa iyang life as working on the farm. No, gina-promote niya gid ang ilang milk, cheese, and of course the beef. And he was very interested in the problem about protein. He went to the Philippines. He looked at our children, diri hambal niya ka protein deficient daw sa mga children sa Philippines. Then he went on and studied kung paano niya ma-solve ang protein nga problem. And then he found out na hindi gali ang iya nga gina-promote nga cheese, milk, and beef ang mag-solve sina because he found out nga ang families who are having more of the beef and the milk and the eggs the children are having liver cancer. While those children nga wala sa amo nakadamo nga protein or lain nila ginakuha sa protein like your vegetables and your beans, they were not having the cancers. So he started promoting this and then in the middle sa iyang life, he had another discovery. And so it led him to go back to the US, to his university, Cornell University. If you know Cornell University, muna siya ang one of the best no when it comes to nutrition. He went back there and made some research. Niya, ano gid matabo sa rats kung hatagan sila sang high animal protein. So what he did is he had a group of rats kasi syempre hindi mo pwede ubrahon that time, hindi mo gid na pwede ubrahon sa tao. No? So they have lab rats. So half sang rats hatagan sang 20% animal protein. And the other half hatagan niya sang 5% animal protein. And so after 3 weeks until 12 weeks ng study, he found out that those with 20% animal protein had increasing growth of their cancer compared to the other group nga 5% lang, wala nag-increase ang ilang cancer o wala sa cancer growth. So hambal niya, okay, high animal protein causes cancer. What if high plant protein? No? Try niya plant protein, wala. Wala may 20%, wala sang may nag-cancer nga growth. Now, hamala, what if pasakaon ka panubuon ng ang animal protein. So started siya sa isa ka group sang rats 20% pag start niya. Then after 3 weeks panubuon niya sa 5%. Then after 3 weeks pasakaon niya liwat sa 20% ang iya protein. After the 12 weeks nga study, he found out every time nga pasakaon is 20% ang animal protein, nag-grow ang cancer. Every time nga ibutang niya sa 5%, hindi mag-grow ang cancer. And so he said, one of his famous nga quotes, you can always turn on and turn off your cancers just by adjusting the level of protein intake. So dira pa lang nga part no sang study sang life ni Campbell, he found out that there was a problem with the world's source of protein. No, he went back to his university, ang iyang university ginapatihan sang damo-damo nga ibang mga universities because they were the best. And hence so he had the opportunity to present what if we do studies sa humans. I mean, not feeding them this percent of protein, but let us look at their epidemiology. Let's see kamusta ang mga tao ang kaon sa taas ng protein or those who are not consuming high protein. He had an opportunity sa China, not sa US. No, he went to China. He studied almost all of China. He had 65,000 people followed up, their diets, their blood chemistry, and it took him a while para makuha ang Biloyaka study. I think it was in 2005 nga na-release niya ang study. It was called the China Study. Yeah, kung sino familiar sa inyo. During its time, kaya wala pang ibang biggest na study, it was the largest study when it comes to diet and nutrition during its time. So, anong yung conclusions ang ilang study? They found out nga every time may introduce ang meat, dako nga meat, into any society sa China, they start growing cancers. Hamba nila hindi, genetically parehas sila tanan Chinese sila. So more or less, gamay gid ang role sang genetics. More gid sa ilang lifestyle, sa ilang diet. That's why every time nga muni nga parts in China will have increase of intake of meat, particularly red meat, sa kailang mga cancers. And so, ang final conclusion sa China study, if you want to get away with all those kinds of cancers, you have to shift, you have to change the diets ng tao. And so we went back to Cornell University, presented a study. Of course, some people in the US welcomed the study, pero his own Cornell University was a bit medyo hamba nila to kabudlay sang imong results ang imong study kay damo tani sa makontra beef industry, egg industry, dairy industry, poultry industry, pork industry, damo sila sa makontra nga industry. So Campbell was actually marginalized sang iyang university. But of course, hindi man mag-stop si Campbell. He met a lot of other people. He met Dr. Esselstyn, who was a surgeon, nga sa una, ang iyang ginaobra sa mga patients is to open up ang chest, do cardiac surgery, kaksun dito ang bara. Now, he found out nga between surgery and changing people's diet, mas naga-survive longer ang those who change ang ilang study. Such that he made a study, I think it was 19 people who are having very bad ng mga coronary arteries. He placed them in a plant-based diet, and after that he found out nga kaya i-reverse ang heart disease. Well, pagka-guwa sang study ni Dr. Esselstyn, it was not welcomed by the medical field because halin sa una ang thinking sang medical nga people is that you cannot really reverse heart disease. You can just probably slow down the progression pero never reverse it. But he proved it in their study na pwede mo ma-reverse ang heart disease. Until now, actually, you don't really see doctors who are trying to push nga plant-based nga diet ang obrahon mo instead of open heart nga surgery. And because of meeting Dr. Esselstyn, si Campbell, they had a group, they had a film, a documentary film. That's why they had a film, Forks Over Knives. You have seen the film. Ang hambal sang film actually is why it's Forks Over Knives because your diet can do more than the knife, the cutting knife of the surgeon. So they were featured in a lot of programs sa TV, Dr. Oz sa US. No, they were given the opportunity to tell their message. No, si Dr. Campbell, kay PhD siya sa biochemistry. He was respected sa medical field, pero when he starts talking about the results of his study, that's where they really start to say maybe ang imong study dira lang limited sa China or dira lang sa mga tao. Pero that was 2005. Now, today, we have even bigger studies. In Europe, we have the EPIC study, the European Perspective into Cancer. That's 500,000 people nga gin-study sa Europe, and they have the same results. No, you want colon cancer, you go with the red meat. No, if you want to extend your life, you have to get away with all those things and go with your plant-based diet. Same with the US. They have the biggest study, the NIHAARP. 500,000 people followed up, and they found out, yeah, if you want to prevent your heart disease, diabetes, cancer, you have to avoid the fats, the saturated fats, and the cholesterol, and you have to increase your fiber. So basically, the biggest studies in the world are all saying the same things. No, from China study during its time the biggest, to Europe, to the US. So wala na gid man subong sang si Campbell damo na gid sang may ma-back up siya nga studies. That's why siguro kung diin siya subong magkadto nga mga meetings, mas welcome na siya kag atong mga doctors kag scientists sa una nga gambal siya nga wala na yung study, no? Sila na sumong gahipos-hipos because they cannot refute the biggest studies in the world. So amo man na sa aton. Now going back to our health nga health nga message. Before the health message was given in 1863. Pero before sina, what do you think were Adventists taking? Anong ginakaon nila? They were eating chicken, they were eating beef, they were eating fish, they were eating milk, egg, and yes, they were eating pork. Because there was no instruction before 1863. After 1863, anong instruction sa kay Ellen White? Was it to abandon the pork only? No. After 1863, it was to abandon all of them, probably except for the milk and the egg, which has to be abandoned before the end of time. Because hambal ni Ellen White, a time will come, they will not be safe anymore for you. No? Did some time ago, I have read passages, no, kay Ellen White saying there is something pa sa milk kag sa egg na hindi mo makita sa plants. Ellen White cannot mention the word vitamin B12 because it was not yet discovered during the time. It was not possible to write it down. Pero reading that passage, I understood nga ba si Ellen White was referring to the vitamin B12. Now, last time minamangkot diri about the vitamin B12, I believe, okay. I've told you nga, of course, your B12 is not made by your animals. It is made by bacteria. So, point number 1, ginano sa sino sa inyo ga point, kung minaga-try sa inyo hambal nga, you can't be a vegetarian because of this and that. You have to tell them that your animals are not the ones nga nag-obra sa B12. It's made by your bacteria. And how much do we need of your B12? Asasubong ang nakabutang pagyapon sa mga recommended intakes is 2.4 micrograms. Pero may research ng mga 4 to 7 subong. Okay, anyway, let's stick until they really have it published. Let's stick with the 2.5 micrograms. That's very small. That's 2 over 2 billionth of a kilogram. That's 9 zeros after. You imagine 2 over 2, then 9 zeros. That's very, very small. It's very small, but it's something that is also important para sa aton red blood cells maturation kag sa energy production. Now, I wish I could have show you ang slides. The EPIC study, the largest study in Europe, they also look into the vegetarians and the vegans. They found out that the vegans are 52% having deficient B12. About I think that was around 17% depleted, near zero. And just about 25 to 27% that they are okay. Sa vegetarians naman, they found that almost 3/4 are having sufficient B12 and just 1/4 of them having problems with B12. Even with the Adventist ministers in Australia, they found out that about 75% are having problems with their B12. Now, so it's a reality, that we have to face nga if there are some problems with our B12. Now, we cannot let, no, for those who are vegetarians, we cannot let our B12 really go down to depletion. Your body stores B12 in your liver, but it takes around 3 to 5 years for you to deplete all of that. Pero we cannot wait nga makalabot siya sa 3 to 5 years nga ma-deplete mo yung mga B12. Why? Because even before ka magka-anemia, sa lapit ka na gid ma-zero yung B12, you will be having problems with your nerves, with your memory, depression, and even stroke. Actually, namangkot ko, nga may stroke nga nadala-dala, vegan, vegetarian nga stroke. Because sa lawas nato, no, ang role sa inyong B12 is to convert some. Oh yes, let's fast forward. Okay, so do we really need that meat? Protein comes from, mabalik ko na isa ako yung protein. Yeah, you get your protein from the word protos, which means first, but in the 21st century, it became meat, surprisingly. When the question was raised last time, no, quantity versus quality, and we have always been taught that the bigger, the better, no? How much do you really need? It's just 0.75 grams per your body weight. So if that was me, that would be around 45 grams. So how do I get my 45 grams of protein? If I had soy milk in the morning, I had whole wheat bread in the morning, I had peanuts for the day, tofu for lunch, brown rice for the rest of the day, papaya and malunggay and potato, and let's say I had banana and mango, that would be 49 grams. So I meet my protein needs being vegan for this matter. So if for those nga nakaabot ka na early na, sorry, may pang distribute ako nga pamphlets about protein. You can check kung ano kadamo nga protein you're getting from your diet. Probably next time I could bring more. Medyo na-stock up ako na printer kagina. So, kung sa quantity man, hindi ka ganyan makulangan. Actually, sa ibang ganyan vegan, ang balo nila ang diet nga na is kulang pa. It's very simple diet. Ang vegans can eat more than that. Sa quality naman, the best measure today we have is your PDCAS. You don't have to memorize that, but that's the best that we have today. And if you look at it, your whey, your protein in your milk has a score of 1.0. Your egg yolk, egg whites egg whites ang namin ko has a score of 1.0. Your soya has a score of 1.0, and so is your grains and legumes, your rice and your beans. They have a score of 1.0. Now 1.0 is the best score that you can have. So when it comes to quality, hindi nyo pwede mahambal nga nubo ang quality sa protein sa vegetables because they are also high in quality. Now, is there a problem with a high protein diet? Let's see who's eating most of the meat. You can see United States, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Denmark, and most of the developed countries. And if you ask our book, who's having the highest colorectal cancer, it's United States, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Denmark, Sweden, and the other developed countries. Let's see that again. United States, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, Denmark, and most of the developed countries. So, those who are eating most of the meat are also getting most of the colon cancer. A special mention there is Japan, no? Which also now has a high colon cancer. Sang una, nubo pa lang ilang cancer, but when they started eating like those in the Western, they have increasing levels of their colon cancer. So it's not their genetics, it's their diet. So if you are asking how high is high protein, in a study, it's 3 ounces of meat for men daily or 2 ounces of that same meat for women daily. That's about the size of your cassette tape. So, one burger patty is considered a high red meat intake. How about high processed meat? 3 hot dogs a week for men is already considered a high processed meat. For women, that's around 1.5 hot dogs per week. If you want to avoid cancer, you have to have less than a burger patty in a day or less than 3 or 2 hot dogs in a week. Protein is not always equal to protein. If you can see there is a picture of two cameras. Pero what you notice is lainay ang color sang Lego nga nagaobra sa ila. That's a Lego actually nga model. In protein, we call that your amino acids. That's the one that makes your protein. Ang iyang breakdown, your amino acids. Now, your protein from your meat is high in methionine. That's a cancer-promoting amino acid. Now, don't get me wrong. You need your methionine, but you don't need it that high. You need it to just be ang tsakto lang amount yung provide ma-build sa imong. More than that, it builds your cancer. So where do you find your methionine? It's high in your fish and your chicken, still higher in egg, beef, and milk. But if you really, really want to get it from the low sources, you can have your grains, vegetables, beans, nuts. And there is something in your food that the food industry doesn't want you to know, because if you know, you wouldn't want to eat that. Like 80% of the meat that we have are given antibiotics. Now, what is antibiotics doing in our food? Well, the energy of your animal, of your beef, for example, will be spent in growing, will be spent in movement, will be spent in defense. But the food industry doesn't want it to spend all the energy moving around, going against diseases. They all want it to grow and grow faster. So they put them in cages so that they don't move around, and they solve the problem with the defense by giving them antibiotics so that the animal will just grow, and grow. So that back then we can grow a chicken in 70 days. Now we can grow a chicken in just 48. Actually, it's less than 48 in the Philippines. And what happens is we have a lot of antibiotic resistance. Back then, it takes around 10 to 15 years, no, from magwa ang antibiotics until magka-resistance. It takes around 10 to 15 years. But today, it only takes the same year or just 1 year na magka-antibiotic resistance. In fact, wala pa ta gani nakalabot diri ang 5th generation nga antibiotics naman nga cephalosporin nga ni ceftaroline, and may resistance na siya. Why is that so? According to CDC, one reason is that us doctors are being irresponsible. We are giving antibiotics left and right. But the other reason is because there is antibiotics in your food. Wala ka pa take sang antibiotics, gina-take mo na through the food. Now, isa ni ginapabugal gid sang Bounty Fresh, the one that provides your chooks to go. They grow chicken in 32 days, not 48. They grow it in 32 days. Same procedures that are been going on sa foreign countries. And if you look at their website, no, not from anybody's website, their website, you can see this. Do okay man ang chickens, but what are they eating? You can see if you zoom in at the picture. Thankfully, they provided a high resolution picture that you can actually see there. They're given neomeditril. Now, your neomeditril is an antibiotic. Equivalent niya sa aton sa mga tao is your ciprofloxacin. We give that for UTI. So what happens is you've been eating egg and chicken, then you get UTI, you go to the hospital, your doctor gives you this medication. It doesn't work because you're already resistant to the medication. Same story with the other growers. They are given, this is from an insider, nga nag-work sa una sa San Miguel Pure Foods. They are given antibiotics from day one until just before they are dressed of course, the antibiotics transferred to the humans. They are given antibiotics even if they are not sick. Of course, they don't check the chicken. They don't really have to check the chicken kung sino masakit at tagan antibiotics. They don't do that. They give the antibiotics to everyone. To everyone. And this practice is being banned in other countries but is still being done here in the Philippines. Out to 64% sa mga poultry nga makita sa market, be it from backyard raisers or sa mga commercial, are found to have antibiotics in them. So what's it sa ano para na sa anong makuha mo da nga thought, no? When you get sick, kag damo ka na sang antibiotic resistance, kato ka sa hospital, kuhaan ka namon sa dugo, culture namon, check namon sensitivity sa antibiotics. Mostly hindi mag-work sa imo. So we recommend you to buy, then we give you the most expensive IV antibiotics. Kaya mo na lang mabilin nga mag-work sa imo. Because wala ka agad man gakuha sang antibiotics, but you have exposure to the animals, you have become resistant. So mas mahal ay mga hospitalizations kaya IV gaday mo antibiotics. B12, I've started talking about this. No, we don't get that from your beef. We don't get the chickens don't make that. It's your bacteria that make that. So there is cobalt, no, in the soil used by the bacteria to make your B12. Now your B12 goes to the soil, your cow comes along and he eats the plant, and the bacteria acts inside the cow and make the B12. And then we turn the cow into the hamburger. That's why then we tell that ang B12 para halin sa beef. Now normally sa una, no, just remember, gusto sang plant magbalik kaya just remember nga sa ako naghalin ang B12 niya na. Sa una, ang makuhaan tas ang B12 would be reverse, no? Reverse nga limpyo pa, no? And kung hindi river, you can get that from your fresh produce soil with B2 forming bacteria because it's in the soil. So when you get your potatoes, sa una, ara pa da ang higko, transfer sa imo kamot, ang B12, you eat, you take the B12 with you. But today, unfortunately, we cannot get water from the rivers because they are very dirty. And the fresh produce that we have has to be sanitized by washing because of one, we have pesticides, and two, damo E. coli. Kaya ang farm kag ang danay man lang sila mo. So ang danger dira kung hindi mo paglimpyuhan, either you eat the pesticide or you eat the E. coli. Rendering our foods today that you get from the market near zero, almost zero na gid ilang B12. You don't get B12 inside. So unless you have your own farm with no pesticides, no fecal contaminations, and a safe water source, you don't have a B12 problem. But for us here, we're gonna have a problem. This is what I've been talking earlier. EPIC study, 52% deficient, 21% depleted sa vegans. Sa vegetarians, 3/4 okay pa sa ila, but the 1/4 has a problem with B12. Adventist nga study sa Australia, 3/4 of them are having deficient B12, and so with the other numerous studies. I've been saying earlier nga we cannot wait nga manaog siya dito sa dalom. Why? Right now you could be okay, no? But before you get the anemia, you would first have cognitive problems, brain shrinkage, stroke, for some, depression, and some DNA problems. So, isa hindi mo siya mabatsagan nga nubo ni mo B12 until you have anemia. Pero before you get the anemia, you will be having some metabolic nga problems. Kaya ang B12 deficiency ari pa diri sa dalom. It's not safe to wait until it goes there. And this is what I've been saying kagina. B12 is needed for that one. The one in this side is for energy production. The one on your right side is for your RBC. So what happens kung madula ang B12? Kung madula ang B12, you cannot convert now these two. And mapile up ang iya nga gina-convert because they are not being converted. So you ask, ano gid ang problem kung mag-pile up sila? Your homocysteine, the one you can find on your right, no, when it increases, it does problems with your arteries, no. Wala gid man kita sang cholesterol, trans fat, saturated fat, but it causes atherosclerosis. How do we know? Because there are studies pointing that some vegetarians nga nagnubo na gid lang nga B12 have increasing homocysteine sa ilang lawas, and such that nagabot sa point, no, nga mas thick pa ilang nga arteries sang sa ila counterparts nga mga omnivores. So how could that happen? It's with the homocysteine and the deficient nga B12. How do we know nga B12 gid ang problem? They gave them the supplements for 12 weeks and their arteries improved. And so ang conclusions ng study, wala tagahambal nga hindi ka mag-vegetarian because it has the best effects sa imong cardiovascular nga health. But it also indicates that we need to make sure you have B12 because it may negate some of the benefits that you have. Just like that. You cannot wait for it to really go to zero. So we were created vegans. And is there a flaw in our design? No. We were created vegans. Why is it that there is such thing as a B12 deficiency? Actually, it's not a flaw in our design. Not at all. No, such that your astronaut could complain why there is no trees in the moon or why there's no air in the moon. Because the simple answer would be that the moon is not our natural environment. So is our cities today. This is not our best environment. Our best environment should have been allowing us to get the B12 from the rivers, which we cannot do now. Our best environment should have been allowing us to get the B12 from the soil, which we cannot do now because of pesticides, because of human invention. We cannot do it really effectively today because even our soils are getting depleted of the needed cobalt, such that cows are becoming B12 deficient. Yes, the cows, because they need B12 from the soil. The bacteria cannot make enough of them because gindeplete na because of our farming methods. Gindeplete ang cobalt. The cows needed to be given B12 supplements. Yeah, even the cows are having a problem. God's original diet is perfect, but our destructive activities have made its nutrients less attainable. So where do we get it? Okay, we get it from your fortified foods, like your soy milk, your B12 fortified cereals, or some rice. Nakakita ko sa mga rice nga may fortified nga B12, pero tika wala ko nakita ilang levels. Or you can have your supplements kung gusto mo mag-supplements. Now for those who are trying to say, ma-egg lang ko ya. Ma-egg lang ko para may B12 ka. Okay, you can have your egg, but you have to take 8 of them in a day to get your B12. That's 1,700 milligrams of cholesterol. So you cannot get that from your egg. You cannot justify eating egg for the B12. Kay kanubo sa your B12, you have to eat all of that. You can have your own farm, no? Para makuha mo liwat ang natural nga source ng mga B12 sa soil. And for those, no, ang gina-push gid na permis sa vegetarians, you're B12 deficient or sometimes iodine or calcium. Actually ang medyo deficient sa mga vegetarians. Iodine sa aton hindi pwede kay you have iodized salt in the Philippines. Ang calcium, as long as you know where to find it nga non-vegetarian, animal source, you don't have a problem with the calcium. Using the same test though, those eating meat have more deficiencies. Ato na B12, iodine, calcium, sila ya iodine, calcium, fiber, folate, magnesium, vitamin C, and vitamin E. Mas damo gid sila ya deficiencies nga makuha compared sa aton. Especially fiber, you cannot add 0 and 0 and 0 and 0. Wala kagad makuha maski 1 kay 0 ang fiber sang meat. So do vegans need to be tested with B12? Well, if you test your B12 and then it turns out to be low, what would you do? You go home and you make sure you have a reliable source of your vitamin B12. What if you have yourself tested and your results are normal? You still go home and make sure you have a reliable source of your B12 because you don't want it to go abnormal. So you don't really have to have yourself tested except for 2 reasons. If you have one, unexplained nga neurological problems, grabe na gid ka depressed or malipaton, dementic, no? Actually, may schizophrenia nga type nga because of B12 deficiency. Or if you are a breastfeeding vegan or a pregnant vegan, that's the only two exceptions that you have to be tested. Because we do not want this. Sa news, a French vegan, patay iyang bata because he was not taking B12 supplements. Ang bata nga nag-breastfeed sa iya, wala man B12 supplements, napatay siya. And also this one, we don't want another story of this one. This is an Adventist couple convicted of manslaughter, as in murder, of killing a 6-month nilang bata because the child was becoming B12 deficient. They refused B12 supplementation. They kuha na sa hospital ang bata, panago sila sa authorities because they really don't want B12 supplementation. The child died. And this is from our church, no? Adventist Review Online, no? Na-shock ako, Adventist gidya. So we do not want stories like that to happen again. The church being charged, no? It was a big issue gidya. The church being charged of, extreme behavior when it comes to the pursuit of health. And about the B12, that's the stand of a vegan doctor, Dr. Gregor. That's the stand of the Physicians Committee, which we are a member. Loma Linda is a member of that. That's the official stand of the Vegan Society in the UK. And that's the official stand of the Seventh-day Adventist Church, headed by our Health Ministries Director. So you have to make sure that you have a reliable source of your B12. So all the studies I've told you earlier, they're all pointing to this one. If you want better health, it's physical activity and a B12 fortified plant-based diet. If you want problems in your life, there's another answer to that. You can have that. Going back to the health message, why is it necessary? No? Because if you have a healthy mind in your body, that's the only way that God could communicate with us. The body with the mind and its central nervous system is the only medium through which God can communicate with human beings. This explains why Satan's concerted efforts to pollute, defile, and destroy both, so that you don't hear the leading of the Holy Spirit. A clear mind enables us to understand God's will. A strong body enables us to do it. So, we have a health message so that we can render service to God longer and more efficiently. He has given us this body which He wishes us to preserve in perfect health so that we can give Him perfect service. And of course, it is also a good advertisement, no? When the remnant church is very healthy. We cannot say Jesus is coming again and we are sick. No, I'm surprised na reading the councils on diets and you can find eating, drinking, and dressing. Alam ko anong nga dala ang dressing diri because it is a part of our health message. You cannot wear that and go outside and say Jesus is coming again. Hambalon sa mga unbelievers, ano man na siya man, do mas lala pa siya mamayo sa amo. Now, paano sila magpati sa aton nga message kung ang aton nga manner of dress does not show it? And just to mention, unfortunately, this should not be a part of us, no? Your high heels. I'm sorry. Because it will really cause you health problems. Not just, simpling health problems, but permanent health problems. Just for example, damage to your leg tendons, nerve damage, osteoarthritis of the knee, plantar fasciitis, pain under your foot, low back pain, and even sciatica. That's from the American Osteopathic Association, the one in charge with bone health. So hindi siya simpleng problem ang makuha mo sa high-heeled shoes. That's why even dressing is a part of our health. So your diet, your health, and your dress is a sermon to the unbelievers. The medical missionary is a great entering wedge It is the right hand of the gospel. It will break down prejudice as nothing else can do. No, it is an agency. Isa siya kapaagi that we can present the truth to the unbelievers. Subong ka budlay nga magkadto kasi isa ka tawo kagambulon mo, Ma'am, sir, ma-Bible study ta? It's very difficult. No, most likely ang makuha mo answer is no. Pero if you do this, no to them, just like Ma'am Baloyo and her team did in Miagao, the people are very welcoming, no? They are very excited about health programs. And ari isa na mo ka-picture just before matapos ang series. Daw mo nag-attend. Actually, half na lang siguro sa nag-attend. Kay iban, gadali na magpuli, no? Hindi na makapod sa pictorial. Pero you can really see why it's called, no, a wedge that can penetrate barriers. It is a great entering wedge. And this picture was me during elementary years. Pathfindering ni siya. And in pathfindering, we have this. The semaphore. No? I don't know kung may iban sa ilo kabalo din sa semaphore. Pero let's say, sino kabalo sa semaphore din? Gamay lang. Okay. Si Mike, don't worry. What if I tell you nga tuduan mo ang imotupad subong sang semaphore, maobra mo? Let's say hindi siya kabalo. Matudluan mo siya nga ikaw hindi kabalo sa semaphore. Matudluan mo siya subong? Okay. Kung hatagan ta ka sang kopya, tudluan mo siya? Insigida subong? No, I think ang problema kay sa una mo nga lantaw, do kapos lang taon ng semaphore, no? Hapos siya alphabetical, hambal mo A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I. Pero kung isa-isa na gani ka letters, insigida G, insigida B, insigida Z, bubudlay kung hindi mo na memorize ang semaphore. So mano ka ma-start kasi A, B, C, D, E, F, G mo, H, I, hasta makalabot ka sa letter, budlay siya. Now, I'm trying to drive sa ibong sa aton nga nga lesson is that you cannot teach what you do not know. No, if we do not study the health message, we cannot teach it to them. We cannot use it as a wedge sa iban. And isa ka warning ni Ellen White, those who choose to follow their preferences will grow careless of the instruction of the Lord in other phases of the truth. No, we cannot. It's not like shopping. No, when instruction is given to us, we cannot pick kung anong gabagay sa aton. Sabbath keeping, do okay, do nami para sa akon. Tithes, do okay, do bagay gid sa akon. Nutrition, leaving meat behind, do hindi bagay na sa akon, bilin ko lang na. No, it's not like shopping na pwede mo kuhaon ang barato or pwede kuhaon ang gabagay lang sa imo. It's all or nothing. God will only accept 100%. And it's also a sign of obedience. Christians observe true health principles not in order to be saved, but because they have been saved and they are motivated by love to do God's expressed will for their lives. So si Carla, if you can see, hambal ni Carla, love ko gid na si mama. No? Maski hambalo niya, sundon ko gid na siya, kay love ko gid si mama. Pero one day hambal ni mama siya, Carla, you brush your teeth. Hambal ni Carla, hindi lang niya, si mama, ano man na siya. Ano man ang ginapaobra sa akin, hindi lang niya, pero love ko si mama, pero hindi lang ako magpati sa iya. Kasi hindi ko man nagkilangnan. No, mo na siya bala ang love, na ginahambal, no, nga we disobey, no. Disobedience is a form, as a proof of your love. And of course, there will be no disobedient people in heaven. So those who disobey now to the instructions, most likely they will disobey all the others. Now we have been given the work of advancing the health reform. And Ellen White says, beware in placing yourself in opposition to the health reform. It will go forward, and it is a means of lessening the suffering in the world and purifying his people. He says, my brother, if you fail to follow the instructions given to you, please do not harm others by opposing the light God has given on the subject. So kung hindi mo gusto magsunod
Hindi na pagdalahiga ang imo tupad, imo pamilya, imo mga friends nga gusto gid ya mag-follow sa instructions ni God para sa ila. Be careful in what attitude you assume because you might be causing division not only in your home but also in your church. God demands that the appetites be cleansed and that self-denial be practiced in regard to those things which are not good. This is a work that will be done before His people can stand before Him, a perfected people. So we say, Jesus is coming again, but if we really want it to happen, we have to prepare ourselves. If we give, we list the events from today until the second coming. If we give them a number, let's just say we give it a number 1 to 20, we are at step 1, perfection of character, and we cannot have that until we purify ourselves, until we let go of the meat in our diet. We cannot go to step 1. Lastly, our president has a message for all of us. During last July in Switzerland, he was there with the World Health Organization, and he said this: practice what you teach. He said that he feels sad when he hears of places that because you talk about health living, you're a fanatic. He is sad that when you teach about the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, you belong to another country. Yes, our president has been a big victim to all of this. And among those who are waiting for the coming of the Lord, meat eating will eventually be done away. Flesh will cease to form a part of their diet. He said, I live in a healthful manner not to earn my way to heaven, but because the Lord has told me that's the best way to live. I challenge you to live this lifestyle. Remain balanced and calm if you face opposition from your local church or even, God forbid, from your pastor or from a church administrator or an organization that doesn't understand what we have been talking about this week. So he says, go with that attitude, be a vital missionary for Jesus, go in the power of Jesus, be a vital proponent of God's wonderful work. So as I've always been saying, health is a journey, and the right way is not the easy way. It starts with a decision. It could be right or wrong, but your decision is followed by a step and another step and another and another, because health is a journey. So I hope we will be making the right decision starting today, and I urge everyone to stay healthy, celebrate life. So that's the health message. That's the reason why we have a health message. When it was given to us for purification, for preparation for His second coming. May God bless us all.
He's Coming Broadcasting Network.